Hi and welcome everyone on the Toxic Family Podcast. I'm Zsuzsanna, the host, an inner child coach. This is episode 2. The title is My Neurotic Parent Has Turned Me into a Raging Adult. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spreaker and SoundCloud, or on my website www.silenttraumahealing.com. So let's start. A neurotic parent is the one who holds the family atmosphere unpredictable, shaky, always changing and nervous. It's like always being the nervous, fearful vibration. Today's story is connected to my lovely father. I love him dearly. So I did grow up in a toxic family background, in a toxic family dynamics. But I'm having a good relationship with my parents. So, I love them both. So I might come from a toxic family, as I said. I can manage my emotions around and towards my parents. I can set and guard my boundaries, so my relationship with my parents is calm. But the story of my father is that he grew up with a neurotic mom. My grandma was not really strong in her nerves. Everything could shake her nerve system, and she lost it very quickly. So imagine growing up in a family like this, where one of your parents loses it very quickly. And so let's see the family dynamics. Mom is neurotic, like my grandma was. Many mood swings, fearful, nervous mindset. She was like a volcano, okay? Dad, or my grandpa, was the protector, the guardian angel, but he didn't protect the civilians in the area of the volcano, but the volcano from an eruption. The kids, the civilians, that's my dad and his sister, had to fear the volcano as they never knew when she was going to erupt. So this is the basic situation. My grandma could not deal with anything that was a threat to her nervous mind. Small things and happenings threw her out completely of her very, very, very small, tiny comfort zone, and then all hell broke loose. She couldn't control her nervous mind, so she controlled everyone around herself. What did it mean to her family? So what did it mean to the children and obviously to my grandfather? And as far as my grandfather is concerned, my mom told me a lot of times that my granddad was an angel because he was the only one who could influence my grandma's moods a little bit, though, not a lot. So he was the one who controlled the volcano. For a long time, it didn't occur to me that this angel was not his personality, but his duty. And he was an angel because he wanted to keep the family peace for himself and for the kids, obviously. So he protected my grandma from everything that could have affected her. He was a guardian indeed, but it did not help the situations, it only contained them. So his aim was not to step into the situation and try to look for help and have my grandma to change, but to prevent my grandma to erupt, to prevent the volcano from erupting. He would have never said to my grandma, and we are talking about now here 1950s, 1960s communist Hungary. So he would have never said to my grandma, that woman, for the family's sake and for everyone's mental health, you better look for a therapist. So it never happened. And what about the children? Now, they were not allowed to engage with their mom on an emotional level because their emotions, the tension of their emotions, would have thrown my grandma completely out of her peace. So if they were bullied, rejected, unhappy, hurt, frustrated, anything that could happen to two kids, they could not bring it into her space. They could not bring it at home. They could not talk about how they felt or how they experienced situations outside the home. So the moment they stepped into their homes, they had to transform themselves into these robotic kids. They were not allowed to bring any kind of tension into the space of my grandma. Now, in normal situations where the parents are not neurotic, but they have a strong nervous system and they can control their minds and they don't lose it so fast, the role of the parent is to help her children understand their inner world. But it's only possible if the parent herself is comfortable with her own inner world. My grandma, she couldn't regulate her nervous system. She couldn't calm herself down. So every kind of emotion from the outside or happening or a problem was a threat for her. So imagine, kids face a lot of problems. Kids face a lot of situations, a lot of new situations, you see. They go to daycare, they go to school, they have new classes, new mates, they have breakups, they have crushes, I don't know. Kids face a lot of new situations in their lives, but if they don't have the emotional background, they never learn to handle these situations. So my grandma was not comfortable with her inner world. She rejected the feelings of her kids. And so, as I said, you learn to deal with your emotions and the situations and the new situations of your life if your parent does not show, or let me start this sentence all over again. So, you learn to deal with your emotions and situations in your life only if your parents shows you and teaches you how to do that. And what happens to you if your parent prohibits you to engage with her on an emotional level? You don't learn all these things. You press down everything for the sake of your mom and her peace, and then for the family peace, and it becomes a boiling, fiery, pressing, and restless mess inside of you. It's like this is when parenting or taking care of the other one is upside down, because normally in normal functional families, parents are mature enough to take care of the emotions of their children. In this case, my grandma was completely immature. She was not able to take care of her own feelings. So the situations and the roles have flipped, and her children had to take care of the emotions or the emotional state of their mom. So imagine that you have this boiling, fiery, pressing and restless mess on your chest. It's on your chest really, it's in your belly. And when you are triggered, it will erupt like a volcano, and it's called rage. So it's like you become the volcano yourself. So you can see here a family pattern that my grandma turned my father into a raging volcano because she was herself a raging volcano. Probably she was also not allowed to connect with her parents on an emotional level. She couldn't deal with different kinds of problems and situations of her life. So when it came to her kids, the same pattern happened. And I'm telling you, I couldn't connect to my father and to my mother either on an emotional level. And I was also a very raging teenager. And I still catch myself raging, but then I know that I have to start looking what's triggering me at that moment, and I can fix it. But this rage is being passed on to the next generations if people do not deal with them. And one generation doesn't say, okay, I've had enough. We have these raging people in this family and I'm done with it. I will change this. So as you haven't learned, or as my father hasn't learned to manage his feelings, he will erupt then because he cannot contain it. And it's for everyone. So not only my father, but other kids of neurotic parents do this. This rage is actually their collection of their unmet, unprocessed feelings they have pushed down. And when you go to it's like when you go to a wedding party and you push down the whole menu from the starter through the main course to the coffee and the cake and everything, and they can't find their places, so they have to come out explosively and bomb. It's not very nice. So this is my story. It's not only neurotic parents raise raging kids. There are other kinds of parents who are raising raging kids, and that will be another podcast another time. So I am Zsuzsanna, as I told you. I'm an inner child coach. I'm specialist in inner talk, observing and investigating inner talk, because inner talk, your inner voice, the voice in your head, is actually the continuation of the voice of your parents. The way they treated you is the way you treat yourself. I have a website. It's www.silenttraumahealing.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Silent Trauma Healing. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Spreaker and SoundCloud. I'm very interested in the stories of people. I'm also very interested in the question of the people. So if you have a story, write to me, connect with me. I'm very happy to help and share stories like the story of my father and the story of my life. No, I can't sing. My main profile is to help people who come from toxic upbringing, from toxic families, and they are anxious. They are building toxic relationships with their children. They have toxic relationships themselves now. Or they have dysfunctional and toxic mother-daughter relationships. And what an inner child coach does, it's very important to know what an inner child coach does. So inner child coaching is taking you back to some points of your bringing up. And so looking at situations, significant situations of your life, to see what kind of emotional tools you've got from your parents for the rest of your life. It's like, I tell you just a very short example. Imagine that you were afraid of the monster of the under your bed. Okay, so that's the basic story. We were all afraid of the monster under our bed. So imagine that you tell your parent, Mom or Dad, I'm afraid of the monster under my bed. And so, okay, what's the response? Maybe your parent says, oh my God, don't be so childish, just go to sleep. I don't want to hear about this anymore. Or she says or he says, oh, that's not very nice, right? What can we do? How can I help you? Would you like a torch under your bed? Or shall we check? Or shall we sing a song? Or shall we sing a lullaby for the monster to go to sleep? Or then this parent comes up with solutions so you do not get stuck on one hand with the monster under your bed. And also you recognize that situations can be helped, and problems are not threats for your parents and also not for yourself. So this is what inner child coaching does. I'm very happy to connect with you, and see you soon, very soon. Now this sounds crazy. So have a lovely day. Bye bye.